morning, my people. How are you all this morning? And yes, I am extremely late this morning. But as you can see, I am on the road right now, trying to get some business handled. But as always, I try to make sure that I give a positive thought to start the week off with. I am, as I mentioned, currently on the road setting up life alerts for some of my customers, trying to make sure that they're okay. Well, let me put your seatbelt on. All right, so I wanted to bring you all in on the conversation that I was having Sunday morning. Because of our live show and then because of some of the podcasts that I do, I run into a lot of individuals who want to have conversations, and I never turn them down. I say, okay, well, if it's something I can say or do that'll help, then that's what I'll do. But now, here's the conversation that we were having. My cousin asked the question about how is it that you have a situation that's set up where men have to learn how to treat women, but it would appear that women don't have to learn how to treat men. And that conversation went into another line of thought with this particular lady. She was saying that her father was no good. She was saying that he had become strung out on drugs and he left the family, and a whole number of things. But I told her, I said, listen, now you can't necessarily fault just your father. I said, because you don't have the whole story. You saw what was going on, or what they allowed you to see. But as children, there are things that we can't comprehend that go on between our parents. And so I told her, I said, now I'm not saying that you're confused about the situation, but now I know you don't have the whole picture. I said, because here's the thing, when it comes to relationships, but especially when it comes to marriage, even though there may be an individual who clearly put more into the marriage than the other person, it's not fair to say, okay, because of the fact that this person put the most in, that the other person's side of the story is not important. And so what I was trying to help her to appreciate is that your father's side of the story is just as important as your mother's side. What happened to your father that made your father behave the way that he did? What happened to your mother that made her behave the way that she did? See, the people don't take that into consideration. They just say, okay, well, my mother was here, which is important, but you never try to understand your father's side. Now, I'll go further with the story. So, this is the point that I made to her. I said, okay, so now that you have your mother's side of the story, and I had to, be kind of delicate with her because her mother passed away 5 years ago from cancer. So I was very delicate with the way I discussed it with her. But I said, okay, because of the fact that your father was not present, had you ever talked to him and asked him why he wasn't present? Did you ever have a conversation with him about why he didn't do certain things that you think he should have? I said, and even past that, let me ask you a question. With your mother, she related to me that her father had 12 children. He had one child before they had her. So I asked her, I said, well, don't you think that it would be necessary for you to know the kind of man your father was before he married your mother? What was he doing before? Because now, we got to be honest with this thing. If he was the kind of man that was not faithful, if he was the kind of person that didn't value his relationships with women, why would your mother enter into a relationship with this man knowing that this was the kind of person that he was? Did she believe she could change him? Did she believe that she could maneuver things to where he would become that kind of person? Listen, let me tell you something. As a man, I'm almost 40 years old, and I can level with you. I can tell you exactly what this is. Listen, if you meet somebody, especially if it's a guy, you meet him, and he has qualities about himself that are undesirable. The only person that can change those qualities is him. Now, the way you treat him might motivate him. You could try to reason with him, but in the end, the only person that could make those changes is him. And that goes especially for men, because we're set in our ways most of the time. You meet us at a certain age, we've been doing things a certain way, that's how we're going to continue to do them. Now, if you meet a man and his outlook on life is not one where he values the women around him, why would you marry this cat? You want a family, you want children, that's not necessarily important to him. And so that's what I was telling her. You need to understand that. You need to see if that was the case with your father. Because if it was the case with your father, then that means that it's two people in this situation that bear the blame. It's not just him. It's not just him. Because if you enter into a relationship and have a child with a person and you know that they're not disposed toward being a father, they're not disposed toward trying to be a husband, then you have to bear some responsibility for the choices that you make. That's all I'm saying. And I think that a lot of times that's what happens. That's what happens. As a community, that's what we do. Now, my mother was here. I don't care about my father's side of the story. Or it was a situation where your father was not present and you don't go to try to see what happened that didn't allow him to be present. And even if it's a situation where he just chose not to be there out of spite, you still owe that to yourself. Because we're not discussing their motives and what they did for nothing. This conversation is not geared toward pointing the finger at anybody or laying the blame on anybody. This conversation is geared toward you being the best that you can be. If you don't have both sides of the story, you can't heal. If you don't understand the reasons why your mother did what she did and the reason why your father did what she did, you only have half the story. And if you only have half the story, you can never progress from that point because you don't understand. And the understanding that you do have of the situation is limited. You cannot make progress with limited understanding. Because now, after you've established the whole picture, then you can attack it. You know what areas you need to work on. You know where the difficulties lie, and you can meet those difficulties head on. Otherwise, you're going to continue to deal with the same traumas that you have. You're going to continue to have to deal with the same problems that you have because you have not gotten to the root of what those problems are. Yes, in this particular instance, her father may not have been the best guy. He may not have been a guy that needed to be a father. But at the same time, it was up to her mother to look at this guy and vet him. If his past dictated that he would not be a good person to be a father or a husband, she should not have entered into that relationship with that man, trying to change him. People are going to be who they are. You meet a guy and he say, okay, I want to be a husband, I want to be a father. And your goal is the same. You want to be a wife, right? You want to be a mother. Then that means that y'all goals to have a family, they align. They're in agreement. So because they're in agreement, then that would be a way to go forward without having the difficulties that a lot of people experience. You can't make a person into anything. If they're not a husband, you can't make them into one. If they're not a father, you can't make them into one. And anytime you go into a situation where that's what you're trying to do, you're trying to change somebody, you gambling. You gambling. And a lot of times in gambling, you lose. But now you're gambling with your life. You're gambling with the life of your children. You're gambling with the lives of all the individuals around you, because if this thing does not work out well, then that means that the people around you are going to have to give you added support. More support than they would if you had looked at the situation correctly. So no, I couldn't let her go with that one. But as the situation progressed, the conversation I should say, I could tell that the situation with her father had affected her, and it had done so in a negative way, because she referred to herself as an evil bee. I'm not going to say the word, but you know what I mean. She referred to herself as an evil bee. And I stopped the conversation. And I told her, you will not refer to yourself like that in my presence. You ain't going to refer to yourself like that. I feel like everybody has value. And just because you have trauma, just because you have difficulties, just because you have things that you're dealing with, you never take away your own self-respect. I don't care what people call you. I don't care what they think of you. maintain your self-respect. And that was my message to her. I said, now that you understand where I'm coming from, I don't want you to think that because you have these difficulties that you're somehow less than worthy to be loved. You're somehow less than worthy to have the things in life that you need. No, you're not less than worthy, but you got to put the work in. You got to work. And I'm speaking from a place of experience. I didn't get to where I am because everything was easy for me in life. As a matter of fact, everything was difficult. Everything was difficult. But if you are determined and you set your face to be harder than anything else that's around you, guess what? Those difficulties will hit you and they'll never slow you down. They'll never bring you to your knees. They'll never prevent you from getting to where you are. And that's what I wanted to see for her. But the only way she was going to be able to move forward is if she got the whole story. If she understood where her father was coming from, if she got the whole picture. As I mentioned, now we can move forward because we're prepared, we're ready. And so that's the only thing I want to say, man. I'm not real big on Mother's Day. I'm not real big on Father's Day. That's not for me because, in my opinion, if you have a mother or a father and they're still alive, that should be something that you do every day. You shouldn't have to have a day on your calendar to remind you to show love, honor, and respect to your mother. You shouldn't have a day marked on your calendar that reminds you to have love, honor, and respect for your father. That's something you do all the time. That's something you do all the time. So that was just my thoughts for today, man. We as a community, we got to start doing that. Get the whole picture, man. Get the whole picture before you, because another thing too, and then we're gonna cut it short. If you don't have the whole picture, guess what you're gonna do? You're gonna speak down on somebody that you shouldn't. You're gonna say some things that's not true because you don't know the whole story. You don't know why things happened the way that they did. The only thing you know is, in your opinion, you didn't get what you were supposed to get out of the situation, so now you bitter. If you don't want to be bitter, if you don't want to be angry, if you don't want to repeat the same cycles that you saw happen, you got to get the whole picture. You get the whole picture, and then you can move forward. You can get the help that you need. You can deal with the situations that's causing you difficulty. That's where the trauma comes from. It comes from not having the whole picture, not understanding. But if you fight to get an understanding, then you can move forward. I guarantee you. And you can move forward happy. Because now you understand why your dad did what he did. Now you understand why your mom did what she did. And you can take on the good examples that they set, and you can leave the bad examples to the side. You don't have to do what they did. You can always be better in the situation because it's up to you. It's your choice. You have freedom of choice. And as always, my encouragement to you is to choose good. Because if you choose good, good gonna come back to you. Hey, I ain't got to tell you. Try it out. Try it out this week. Do something good for somebody and watch it come back to you. And it's gonna come back to you better than when you send it out. Those are my thoughts, man. I just wanted to make sure I got that out this morning. Because it sat kind of heavy on me, man, because I really felt bad for her because she didn't know. She had no idea. The only thing she knew is that there was somebody in the world who had her last name that didn't love her enough to stay with her and make sure that she was okay. But she didn't know why. She was confused. You can't move forward in confusion, y'all. You can't move forward in bitterness. You got to learn to let this stuff go. You got to do what it takes in order to make sure that you have the full picture. I hope y'all appreciate the video, man. Just my thoughts. As always, man, I hope your week is positive. As I mentioned, do something positive. Do something good and watch it come back to you. I'm trying to do something good all the time. All right, y'all. Take it easy. Love you.